Hi and welcome along to AFTV. We are here for another live show tonight, joined by my brother Laurie, and we're here to discuss all things Arsenal. Particularly tonight, there's a couple of subjects that I want to talk about. First of all, as everybody knows, I do Transfer Daily every day.
I watch it religiously.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talk about Mudryk and when Mudryk would come to Arsenal and that. But one position also that we need to fill is that midfield position. And when I say midfield position, I mean the number 6 position, Thomas Partey's position, right? So I'm going to come back to that in a minute because I think that's something that needs to be debated because I've not heard people really talking about everything in Mudryk, but what about that position? Also, we can touch on the game that's happening tonight, big game.
Massive.
Now, every Arsenal fan today, as far as I know anyway, is supporting Chelsea. And it's very, even saying that, it feels dirty, you know what I mean? I need to clean myself up, but we are. We're all supporting Chelsea tonight because we want Chelsea to do a job on Man City, right? So that it can help us in our quest to try and win the league, right? So
I've got a question for you. If Aubameyang comes off the bench and scores, will
Aubameyang,
the Arsenal fans forgive him? Will the Arsenal fans forgive him?
100%. Aubameyang, you come off the bench tonight, you score to beat Chelsea, all is forgiven. 100%, right? So we're going to touch on that as well today. And we will touch on a bit also on the Mudryk thing. But I'm starting off today with asking this question, right? Because Thomas Partey this season has been brilliant, been absolutely brilliant, right? He sits in that defensive midfielder position, number 6. Defensively, he's very strong in front of the back four. Yeah, I mean, you can't bully him off the ball. You know, I don't know if you watched, like, even our first goal, I think it was against Brighton, or was it against West Ham? But you won a tackle right in midfield that then led to us. I think it was West Ham, right? He's been doing it all season. He's been defensively sound. But what he also is very good at is progressing the ball. So he'll get the ball in that defensive sort of position off the back four. He's very press resistant, really hard. You know, it doesn't matter if you press him, he's so comfortable on the ball. And then he's passing, his ability to break the lines, his ability to spray the ball out wide, and also the ability that if he doesn't see anything on, a bit like a quarterback when you see them in American football, where they just look and see space and say, well, actually, I'm just going to drive into that space. He does that brilliantly. We don't have anybody else in the team that can do that. I mean, if he's injured, it's always, I guess, Mohamed El Neni who comes in. El Neni does not have that ability to break lines. You know what I mean? He's more going to pick the ball up and go sideways, backwards. And I was thinking about it. I think it was last week I was watching Tottenham play. And many people would have seen at the start of the season, I really wanted Arsenal to get Yves Bissouma. And I remember before, like, speaking to somebody who was saying to me that, Robbie, you know, the only thing about Bissouma is that I don't think he'd fit Arsenal because... And I was like, why not? He's a great defensive midfielder. But he's like, yeah, but he doesn't progress the ball. And when I watched him this season for Tottenham, he doesn't. He breaks up play, but then he passes it sideways. He's not the same. He's not got what Partey's got.
Although, to be fair, Tottenham deploy a different type of style. So is it?
Yeah, but you still want
from the manager.
Well, but you still want even when he was at Brighton, he's not really progressed the ball. So I'm thinking about a player that can play in that number 6 position, that can do what Partey does. Now, as we know, what happens if something happens to Partey? So far, so good this season. I mean, he's had a good injury record, right? Hasn't really had any problems with injuries at all. But we know for the 2 seasons that he's been here, he's been very, very injury prone. We need to get somebody in who can cover for Thomas Partey. Who is that person? And I'm putting it, and I can already see a lot of you guys in the comments coming up with suggestions, and we're going to go through some of those. This guy here, Billy Dalton, says Nzonzi or Tielemans, Don Robbie. Well, we'll get to Tielemans, I'm sure. But Nzonzi, I actually met Nzonzi when I was over in Qatar playing for a local Qatari team. So it won't be Nzonzi. And whilst he still has got that ability and you could still see he looked really, really good, I think his days of the Premier League are long behind him. So it won't be Nzonzi. But What are you thinking? I mean, don't you think when you look at that position, are you surprised that we've not really heard many linking us to a sort of defensive midfielder?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. But before that, I am going to answer that question. But before that, I just want to spend a special shout out to you. Congratulations to you and AFTV in reaching 1.5 million subs.
Oh yeah, big up.
Great work, and listen,
thanks to those guys, they've made it.
Yeah, all the people supporting, shout out to you, all the staff, everybody. I know how much work you put in, and I just want to say publicly that I'm very proud of your efforts. Right, to go back to the matter at hand. Right, you know what, with Partey, you raised a very good point there. Some people have said that with regards to Partey, we are one injury, God forbid, away from disaster in that area, because he plays such a pivotal role. Like you said, he's like all things, isn't he? He's physical, he's strong, he's athletic, he can play as well, and like you said, one of the crucial elements of his play is that he's always looking to progress play, which, given the way that Arsenal play, is fundamental to the way we play, and the fact that he does that so well. So yeah, and you have to also factor in that he's just come back from the World Cup, and there's been no noticeable drop-off, has there? Some players coming back from the World Cup, I mean, even our own Saliba. It was pointed out to me today by Curtis on the Talk is Cheap show, watch out for that show coming up soon, that Saliba is not quite the same guy that he was before he went, for whatever reason. You can't say that about Partey. So yeah, I've been mega impressed with him. And let's be honest, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, start of the season, there were one or two problems surrounding Partey. We're not going to go into it now, obviously, but there were one or two issues. So he's having a fantastic season, and like I said, he's been integral to all the good things we're doing right now. Now, in terms of...
You know what I was trying to do? You would have seen, you know, I've just been on my phone trying to find the exact stat, right? But there's a stat which I'm trying to find that it's when Partey is playing and when he's not playing. And I haven't been able to find the exact stat, but I think it's an unbelievable stat that, like, so I think when he is playing, our win rate is very, very high in comparison to when he's not playing. But I was just trying to find the exact number on it.
All the title winning sides have that kind of unsung hero. I remember a few years ago with Leicester, and then with Chelsea, it was N'Golo Kante, wasn't it? So you need that guy in the middle of the field, that general that's going to clean things up at the back and progress your team going forward. And Partey is that guy for us. And like I said, if he's not in the team, you see a significant drop-off. No disrespects to El Neni or any of those guys. But if you're going to ask me about a replacement, a one that's available... And also, because I see a lot of people here saying, just before you get to who you're going to give me, right? But a lot of people here are saying people like Tielemans. Well, that's who I was going to suggest.
Oh, you're going to suggest Tielemans?
Yeah, because you may have heard on shows at AFTV before, I am an admirer of Tielemans. I think I've been watching Tielemans for a long time now, and I am impressed with his qualities and the fact that he can score the odd goal too, which Partey's done this season as well, obviously. I know what you're going to say, that he's not quite that number 6.
Well, he's not.
No, but I think he could play that role. I think that he has transferable skills that could allow him to play that role.
No, to me,
I think he has transferable skills.
Tielemans are not a number 6, right? He's not. Listen, he's very good on the ball, technically very good. But I more see Tielemans, if you have to watch how he plays at Leicester, he plays more in the same position as what Xhaka's playing right now. Right? He's a box-to-box midfielder. But would you say he's not a number 6, a deep-sitting player that, like, you know, can also tackle? And
no, he's he's physical.
I remember I go back to that game. I go back to that game last year with Tottenham when he's, you know, right in the like dying seconds of injury time. It was his mistake, a weak tackle that gave away the ball that then led to Tottenham scoring. I don't think he's not that.
I think that's a bit harsh to just focus on one.
Well, but I've just not seen him. He's not known for tackling. He's not known for.
I don't know. I think he's
strength.
I don't know, man. He's a solid lad.
Yeah, to me, he's not a number 6. He's not a number 6 in my books. But listen, let me go through.
I think with Tielemans, he's a very good, versatile, talented player that I think has the skills that you could adapt and play at number 6 role. I'm not saying he'd be as good as Partey, because very few would, if I'm being honest. However, I do think that Tielemans, given the fact as well that he is possibly available, I think it's a no-brainer. We should go for him.
Okay, let's get some of your comments. Teeny Beat says, get Declan Rice. A lot of people suggesting
I like Declan Rice, but I don't think we're going to be able to get him, especially in this transfer window. Yeah,
Maurice Atunia says Declan Rice or Frankie de Jong. Now, listen, again, I agree with Laurie on this, in that Declan Rice, I think, would be absolutely perfect for Arsenal, right? And a player that could play at Arsenal for years and years and years, and he'd be superb at Arsenal. But chances of getting Declan Rice in a January transfer window, especially with West Ham, the position they're in at the moment, for them to sell their captain. I think I said it on another show the other day that, you ever seen The Simpsons, where you see all those people walking down the road with holding flames and that to burn down the guy's house? Yeah. That's what would be happening at West Ham. There'd be a revolt. There's no way on this earth they could possibly sell Declan Rice in this January transfer window.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
And Frankie de Jong is not going to leave Barcelona in this transfer window either. So I think both of they're great suggestions, but I don't think any of those are possible.
And that's why, sorry to interrupt, that's why I mentioned Tielemans. But
Tielemans is not a number 6.
No, but like I said, he's got adaptable skills. I don't think number 2, he's available.
He's not a number 6. If you listen, Granit Xhaka's got adaptable skills. We've seen him in that position. He just don't cut it. You've put him now in the position that suits him. All of a sudden now you're seeing the best of Granit Xhaka. I want a player that's going to come in and is going to know what he's doing in that area. The guy suggests Seko Fofana. I think he played for Lens. He's a very, very good player. But again, Fofana, for me, when I've seen him play, has been more of a box-to-box midfielder. Tyler Adams, not a bad shout. He's, but again, Leeds, never going to sell Tyler Adams in this transfer window. Franz Mayer with a super chat. He says, buy Ismail Benatia from AC Milan. He's 22, been in great form, and a bargain valued at £40 million. But again, he's not really a number 6. That's what I'm asking. That number 6 position. Benny says, big up guys, I missed AFTV. I haven't caught up with you guys since before the World Cup. Thought you all would beat the States. Would love to hear the discussion about Ndidi or Danilo. Ndidi would be similar to Thomas. Ndidi, by the way, Benny, you said that the USA were going to beat England, and they didn't either. I was at that game. It was the most boringest game of the World Cup, by the way. And the USA did play better than us. But
you know what, though? The USA in the World Cup, I know we're digressing slightly, they did impress me. I thought to myself, they are a burgeoning team with talent. Let me finish. They listen. Okay, they huffed and puffed, but they did better than a lot of people, including myself, thought. And I'm thinking that.
Did they?
Yeah. I thought that they were a decent side.
I didn't think they. I thought they were okay.
They were a decent side, man. And what I'm saying is that
they got out of their group. I thought they'd get out of the group, and then they lost in the next round.
Yeah, but it happens. We got out of our group.
Well, you just said they did better than you thought they would. Well, I think they did what.
No, listen, to where they've come, I think they are a decent side. And what I was going to go on.
You got a fan.
What I was going to go on to say is that in 4 years' time, when they host the World Cup, I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, and Ndidi, he's disappointed me this season. When I've watched him for Leicester, he's been pretty poor, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
And so no. Danilo one, there was a lot of talk that we were going to go in for Danilo this January. May still do, but at the moment that's gone really quiet. But he is a player who plays in that number 6 position, so it could be a possibility. Elijah says, I asked the same of the lads yesterday. Thoughts on Amrabat for the defensive midfield backup? I know the World Cup isn't a great for scouting, but liked the look of him. Now, Elijah,
tell him what I said to you earlier.
Elijah, he did say earlier on Amrabat. I watched him at the World Cup. He was excellent. I loved his energy. His passing's good as well, and by God, is he strong in that midfield. Now, for me, I'm not sure how much they'd want for him. I mean, if you take a look on sort of, the transfer markets and things like that, his value's at about 20 million or something like that, or I think they paid about 15 million euros for him. If I remember, I have to get it up on the screen, but they'll want a hell of a lot of money. I mean, I think I've seen suggestions of 40, even 50 million pounds. I know that they've said that Tottenham have been interested in him, Liverpool have been interested. I think Liverpool very interested in him because they're trying to replace Fabinho. He'd be a great shout.
Listen, when you look at
that is a number 6.
When you look at Amrabat play, the qualities he has, his physicality, his engine, the way he plays and so forth, he is built for the Premier League, and so I think he could come straight in and do a really good job for us.
However, it's that World Cup thing, isn't it? Sometimes when you buy players off of a competition, that's
obviously going to be the risk you take with any player, though, that you sign.
Yeah, but it happens a lot in World Cups. I mean, what has he been like for his club? I mean, Fiorentina, they bought him for 90 million euros in 2020, and currently they're saying the valuation on him is 25 million euros. But as I said, I reckon he'd be like a 40, maybe even 50 million. His stock went right up after that World Cup. But for me, if he came in, I'd be happy with that. I think that would be a great
player. He'd be an excellent acquisition. And like I said, if you look at the way he plays, I mean, listen, nothing is a given. Like you said, there's always a risk in signing players based on World Cup performances. We all saw, one off the top of my head, James Rodriguez looked like an absolute superstar in the World Cup.
The biggest example ever.
And then bombed. And
bombed everywhere since.
Yeah. But having said that, it would be a risk. But if you look at Amrabat's qualities, like I said, the running, the engine, the tackling, the leadership skills he possesses, you look at him and you think he could make that transition to the Premier League.
Then there's this other question, right? And this is the conundrum. So I think this is what we have to need to understand sometimes, especially when
he can play a bit too, by the way,
when we're discussing transfers. So let's just say, so what would you do in this case, right? There is a chance of getting Declan Rice, say at the end of the season. Some of his representatives say, listen, he ain't going nowhere now, but at the end of the season, he's going to be available, and Declan likes Arteta, likes the Arsenal project. He doesn't want to go to Chelsea no more because, don't look like they're going to get into the Champions League. He'd love to come to Arsenal.
Why wouldn't
he? Do you then say, right, if Amrabat was the thing, do you then say, you know what, we leave Amrabat and wait until the end of the season and get Declan Rice?
You know what, that's an excellent question. You're basically asking me short-term versus long-term. Now,
exactly.
Under normal circumstances, I might be tempted to look at the longer-term view and say, look, you know what, let's just wait. However, Arsenal find themselves in a predicament whereby we're top of the table with the significant points difference. Okay, City have a chance to reduce that tonight. However, the way I'm looking at things, and you may disagree, people out there may disagree with me, I think you've got to seize the moment. I think players that you buy now...
You lose out on Declan Rice at the end of the season?
If needs be, yeah, because if the title's within grasp, you've got to go for it. Because if you don't, you will find yourself at the end of the season thinking, if only I'd have done this, if only I'd have done that. And it's too late by then. Go for it.
Well, I'll put that question out to you guys as well. I'm asking a lot of questions tonight. This is another one, putting a lot of conundrums to you, because when you're doing transfers, these are the sort of problems that Edu will face. Maybe not with a Declan, it might not be a Declan Rice, but it might be, with certain players. Do I bring this guy in now or do I wait?
You bring him in now.
Janine says Casidio, who plays for, of course, Brighton, he looks very, very good. Again, I've seen quotes of 70 million for him. I think they paid about 5 million for him. Sparks says, to be honest, I really like Amrabat as an option at CDM. Dave Jordan with another super chat says, shout out to Jordan Nobbs after leaving Arsenal after 12 years. I was a bit of a shock today when I saw that Jordan Nobbs has left Arsenal. She joined Aston Villa, ladies. So good luck to her. She's been a great servant, but a bit of a shock that she's gone. Subdued 78 says, bring in Savic and allow Xhaka to provide cover for both 6 and 8. We need 3 players to cover 2 key positions for the remaining 30 games. Yek says get Kessie. Now, I've seen a lot of people suggest Kessie, but he's not a number 6, the box-to-box midfielder. We're talking about a specific position right here. Declan Rice or Locatelli, says Kingerus. Now, remember, before Arsenal were trying to get Locatelli ended up going to Juventus. Juventus in a bit of financial trouble at the moment. Should we go back and try to re-explore that and see if maybe there's something that could be done on that?
Could be worked out.
Aston Mac, big up Aston Mac, my guy out there in Florida. I hope all is well. But he says, I told you Bissouma doesn't have the technical quality. You know what? I think I remember him saying that when we was over there in Florida in the summer. Neither does Amrabat, he says. He says Sangari is the one that mirrors Partey, and he's a very good player. He says skill set the best. So he's saying he doesn't think Amrabat has the technical. Again, we've only seen him at the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't.
What is he like week in? That is the danger of when, you know.
And let's be honest as well in saying it. As good as Partey is now, it did take him a while to get up to speed.
That's only because of injuries, though.
Well, yeah, but
because we when we bought him, we knew what we was buying because he'd been doing that for season after season at Atletico Madrid, and we knew that's what we needed. So, you know, we paid a lot of money for him as well. Remember, we paid like nearly 50 million, but we knew what we was getting. It's just
but nevertheless, it took him a while to establish himself in the side and to do what he's doing now. So yeah, it was mainly down to injuries. But what I'm saying is there is that transition time with a lot of players that come in. The league is different. The speed is different. The intensity is different. You go to each ground, it's a different level of intensity at every ground you go to. So, you know, I mean, it's not surprising that a lot of players come in and they find it difficult at first to cope. Very few get up to speed straight away. But hey, it can happen. I mean, look at Casemiro at United. Yeah. He's doing well.
Yeah, I think his only difficulty was the fact that he was injured. You know what I mean? But he's a top player. HJW says the latest Romano tweet on Mudryk is annoying, and I'd try for Kante on a 6-month loan and then go big for Rice in the summer. Where Kante, I don't think there's no way Chelsea would give us Kante. On the Chelsea thing, of course, you know, Chelsea, we've heard all the stories of Chelsea trying to
hijack
the Mudryk deal. I spoke about it on Transfer Daily this morning. Where do you think he'll end up, Mudryk?
Well, I'm speaking as an Arsenal fan. I'm hopeful, obviously, but I do believe he will end up at Arsenal. However, I do believe that the Chelsea bid is real. I've seen a lot of speculation where people are saying that Chelsea are just being almost mischievous in going after him. I don't believe that to be the case. I think it's a serious bid. And listen, if you're Shakhtar Donetsk, especially what they're going through in Ukraine right now, you would understand absolutely why they would hold out for more money. You would as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, what Fabrizio Romano has tweeted out about 27 minutes ago, he said that the Shakhtar vice director, Nicolini, says, we're not in a hurry to sell Mudryk. We don't need the money. We consider Mikhailo stronger than Anthony, so you can understand the value. And that's what he was talking to Calcio Napoli 24. That's what he said. And he then goes on to say the price tag is clear. But you know what? I mean,
I do agree with a lot of what he said, apart from when he says they don't need the money. They do.
They don't. Shakhtar Donetsk.
They do need the money.
They don't need the money. Absolute rubbish. They will take the money for him. They know he's a top player. Obviously, they're trying to get the most amount of money for the player as possible.
You have to respect that.
They're trying to say this thing where they're comparing him to Anthony. They're saying, if Manchester United paid nearly £80 million for Anthony, we think Mudryk is better, so we should be getting at least the same amount of money. Arsenal don't want to go that high. There's been talk that Chelsea would go that high, but I think the thing that Arsenal have got going in their favour in this one is that the player wants to come to Arsenal. He doesn't want to go to Chelsea. He wants to come to Arsenal. I think the Zinchenko thing helps us as well.
It does.
Because, you know, you imagine you're a kid, you're from the Ukraine, you got an experienced guy like Zinchenko who can help you to settle in. And then Chelsea at the moment is, I think Arsenal's way more attractive than Chelsea.
Yeah, I would
sorry,
agree.
you're right. At this moment in
However,
time-
in life, you can never discount the power of money. And, at the end of the day, there's a lot of money on the table there. Shakhtar are obviously going to want the most money they can get. You've got to, and listen, I'm not speaking from a position of knowledge here. I'm just speculating. Who knows how Mudryk's agent's going to feel about it? He might look at it
from the most money you can get.
From a purely business perspective and say, listen, man, Chelsea are offering you more money. They're also in London, also in the Premier League. It's an attractive proposition. And there is also the point of view that's been put forward over the last couple of days is that if he goes to Chelsea, he's got more of a chance in starting regular for Chelsea than he would for Arsenal.
How do you know?
No, that's what I'm saying. That is the argument that a lot of people are putting forward.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if you can say
exactly.
That
you don't know.
Aubameyang's gone. To,
you don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but Aubameyang's gone to Chelsea. He ain't starting.
No. What I'm saying is that's the argument that some people are putting forward.
The argument that I put forward is that you look at Arsenal. Chances of getting into the Champions League this season are much, much higher than Chelsea at 10th at the moment. If they don't win tonight, the Champions League hopes are starting to fade away, even at this early stage of the season. The manager there is already under serious pressure. If you're looking at the two projects, Arsenal definitely a better place to come and play your football.
No, I would agree with that.
But like you said, money does talk.
Money talks.
But the one thing at the moment is the kid seems to be pushing for the Arsenal move. So let's hope that...
You must have heard of that familiar expression in life. Always follow the paper trail. But I lead you to where you want to go.
I also think that this guy here has been very smart. The Shakhtar guy, he knows that Arsenal need the player. He would have seen the game the other night and saw that we had no options off the bench. So what you notice some of the things he said. We don't need the money. So in other words, you're going to have to come with good money or forget it. The other thing he said, we're in no hurry to sell him. Now we know that Arsenal are in a rush to try and get him in as soon as possible. So he's playing to the gallery here.
No, he's been smart. He's looking after the interests of his club. But listen,
he's playing to the gallery. He's playing to the gallery.
Everything he said there, even though we may take some of it with a pinch of salt, is what I would expect him to say. Because at the end of the day, he's trying to secure the best interest for his club. So
playing to the gallery, saying
that's what you
do.
do.
But I still think this is a deal that could get. But players for these sort of deals for these sort of players always going to be never the easiest ones to be done. Best in the World one says the reason that we're going for Tielemans, or the reason we were going for Tielemans, he says, was because they weren't sure Granit could be a goal-scoring number 8. He says, what about Douglas Luiz? Now, Douglas Luiz, obviously, he signed a brand new contract.
That ship's sailing
at Villa. It's a shame because I think he would have been a player that could have come in and done a job in that position, definitely. Luxor says, Anana from Everton. He's young and can be moulded. Well, he only just joined Everton. There's no way they're going to sell him in the January transfer window. London Nomad says, Shakhtar are playing hardball. We don't want another Vlahovic. Use the money, get Felix on loan and 2 midfielders. We can't linger on this too much. I think there'll be a bit of play going on from Arsenal as well, that if there's a scenario where the player himself is like, I don't want to go to Chelsea, I've only got eyes for Arsenal, then Arsenal might just say, well, actually, you know what? Also, we're going to, what do you want to do? You want to lose out on this? Do you want to leave it until the summer? Right? If the player's already sort of said that he's agreed terms, wants to come to us, all right. Maybe we'll all go and get a João Felix in the time being and leave it to the summer. And if you don't hurry up, the value might go down.
Well,
we've seen that happen to a lot of players.
That is the danger from the Shakhtar side of things. The fact that if you overplay it, you risk unsettling the player and you don't get
He looks like he's
him.
unsettled already. I mean, as Christian G says, Mudryk liked a picture with him behind bars. He's coming to Arsenal. Now that is true. A picture of him pictured on Arsenal memes of him being behind bars. He liked it. Right?
Exactly. So
he's liked a lot of things. The one where he liked at the weekend at the Brighton game where he said good coaches in Partey. It's an open secret where he wants to come to.
Yeah, and the danger.
But obviously they want as much money as they can get.
The danger for Shakhtar is, like I said, if you overplay your hand, the players. Let's face it, he's unsettled already. If you overplay your hand and you don't sell him, then you've got a player that doesn't want to be at your club. You wouldn't have got the money. And who's to say that in the summer circumstances may change again.
Yep.
So,
Ronnie Bjorland says, does Shakhtar realise that Chelsea are only able to do this because they financed... Oh, I can't say that. Can't say that, Ronnie. T-Sal says, Diaby or Thuram should be much cheaper and can produce. Thuram looked good in the...
he did.
Arsenal got their heart set on this guy. I mean, they obviously... Mikel Arteta obviously loves him, right? And so does Edu, right? And he's the one that they want. And he's looked good.
Which is why I said earlier, if you've identified the player that you want to get, and like I said, you making a meaningful push for the title, I think it's a no-brainer. You have to do your absolute best to go out and get him. Now, if that means upping the ante by a few more million euros, then I'm sorry. We're going to have to do it. I mean, a few weeks ago, we was hearing that Stan Kroenke is now the richest man in sports. He might have to put his hand in his pocket and pull out a few extra quid.
Well, they're comparing... I just wanted to confirm, like, the Anthony one, because that's who they keep... they keep saying Anthony, right? That's what they're comparing him to. I'm trying to find... I can't find it specifically here, but Anthony, well, it was 80 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something around that ballpark.
So, yeah, that's what they're looking for. That's what they're trying to get. And I don't think Arsenal are going to be paying no 80 million, that's for sure. No chance.
I think, you know what it is? I think the situation is quite clear for Arsenal. You are going to have to pay over the odds for these types of players. And if you really do believe that we have a chance of winning a title this season, you've got to look at it like, do I pay the extra few quid and make a meaningful push for the title, or do I run the risk of not getting who I want? And at the end of the season, you look back and think, if only I'd have paid more money, we could have the title in our grasp. Now, what would you prefer to happen?
Yeah. DJ Ashby says, Mudryk, in my opinion, has a higher ceiling and is highly, highly rated. Chelsea have signed players and there have been flops up front, the wingers, etc. Mudryk says he's happy to sit on the bench at Arsenal. Musiala says, oh, come on, Patas Locust, there's no way they're going to sell Musiala. Great player, by the way, but absolutely
he looked really good in the World Cup.
Yeah, he's the top player, top player, but no chance. So
at the end of the day, it's who's available and how much you're prepared to pay, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah. That's what it's going to come down to. That's what it's going to come down to, man. I mean, I'll actually, let me move it on to this. Who are you supporting tonight? Chelsea versus Man City. Who do you want to win?
Well, listen, strategically, it's got to be Chelsea, innit? Although, like you said, it kind of sounds weird for an Arsenal fan wanting Chelsea to win. However, my boy Aubameyang, who I'm still a big fan of, I'm probably one of the few Arsenal fans who still talk about him in glowing terms, but who knows? He could come on tonight and do a job for us.
As I said, if he comes on tonight and does a job, all is forgiven.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is a really interesting game tonight.
It is.
Even though we only drew the other night, and that would have given City a little incentive, knowing that if they win tonight, they really do close that gap down a bit, down to 5 points. But still, they're under pressure now, City.
Yeah. Although I want to pick you up on something there. You said we only drew. I think we got to put a bit more respect on Newcastle's name. They're third in the table. Going into that game, I think they'd won their previous 9 or 10. I knew they had the draw with Leeds, but they're on a long unbeaten run. They're playing well. The momentum with them is heavy. They're well managed, well coached. I don't think a draw is at all a bad result. We can't win every single game. And Newcastle are a very good team.
I didn't say it was a bad result, did I?
No, I didn't say you said it was a bad result.
What I said
we only drew.
Yeah, I take it as because, let me then also refer to our record. We haven't lost a game at home this season. We haven't failed to score.
We still haven't.
yeah, but I mean, we've won every game.
Yeah.
And we've scored, up until that game, we've scored in every Premier League game that we played this season.
No, but what I'm saying is, I listen, I'm not trying to denigrate anything you said. I'm just saying that I don't think that draw was an adverse result. True, we would have preferred the 3 points. Some people may look at it, we dropped 2 points at home. Yes, you can look at, okay, you could be glass half empty and say we dropped 2 points home, but I would look at it and say we maintained our unbeaten record. We played against another top 3 side who are a good team, playing well, and we didn't lose.
I look at it and say it's not the end of the world.
Definitely not.
But it's 2 points dropped. Now, as it stands, we're 8 points above Manchester City. They're in second place on 36 points. We're on 44. However, obviously, if they win that, they start to close the gap down a bit. They close it down to 5 points. We do have Spurs away next week, a tough game. They've also got a tough game. They've got Man United. But if they were to lose tonight and we maintain that 8-point gap, you know, that would be great for us. Now, Chelsea, I'm looking at Chelsea. Do you know, where do you think Chelsea, let me hide it for you. Where do you think Chelsea are in the league at the moment?
Well, you hinted at it earlier.
Seen it already.
Yeah, you said
10th in the league, 10th, Chelsea. Yeah.
But dare I say, I don't think they'll stay 10th.
Yeah.
You know what?
They've lost 5 games already this season.
They have,
Chelsea.
yeah, and they're not looking. They're looking a bit disjointed, aren't they?
They've lost 3 out of their last 5. Although they have, they did draw their last game and they won the previous one before that. But 3 out of their last 5. Now they're going to be under a lot of pressure tonight. I think this is going to be a great game. I think, and by the way, you can check it out on DR Sports. Who's doing a watch along to it. But I think it's going to be a great game. But if Chelsea could do us a favour tonight, I mean, oof.
You see what it is as well. I spoke about it earlier, and it's the intensity of the Premier League. Now, Chelsea's previous game, I watched that against Forest. They were poor. I've got to say that.
Shocking.
Yeah. But then they get the opportunity tonight in front of their own fans to put things right. We spoke about Tottenham a couple of weeks ago on this show. They were looking poor, and they got turned over, didn't they? Previously, and then they go to Palace and mollywop Palace 4-0, and you think to yourself, where did that come from? I'll tell you where that comes from. The intensity of the Premier League and the fact that in this league, you know what I mean, no sooner as a team loses one, they're looking to bounce back straight away, which is why when we played Newcastle, I knew that was going to be a very difficult game, because the previous game to that, Newcastle had dropped points at home against Leeds, a game that they were expected to win and win well, given the way they were playing. The fact that they were held to a draw was seen as very disappointing to them. So it gave them almost an extra impetus not to get beaten. An extra
point to try and come and win.
Well, you know what?
They didn't attempt to do.
Yeah, but I think that their main emphasis would have been not to lose. I
think they're, listen, obviously with them, they're trying to get into the top 4, so they're just trying to, you know, they know where. And it was a big compliment to us, the fact that they came and they parked the bus. But I think the game tonight, Chelsea, they're at home. Even a point, even if like City drop points again, like they drew a game, would be a fantastic result for Arsenal. And so that's what I'm saying. Every Arsenal fan's watching that tonight as a Chelsea fan.
Listen, every game,
fan, but we want Chelsea to win.
Every game from here on in, and I think there's something like 22 games for the rest of the season, a hell of a lot of games. People have to remember as well, we're not even halfway through the season yet, but already the pressure is being cranked up. So every game is a pressure situation. So, yeah, right, City go to Chelsea tonight, they're under pressure because Chelsea need the win, City need the win, 2 big teams, pressure situation, even us. Next week, we go to, we go to the FA Cup on Monday, but our next league game is against Tottenham, away from home, a place where we've struggled in previous years. Yeah, but again, that's going to be a real pressurised situation.
Every game right now, when you're going for the title, every game is pressure.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Brighton was a pressurised game where a lot of people thought that this could be where we slip up, and we didn't.
Exactly.
But the same pressure's on Man City, and there's a lot of mind games going on already. Yeah. I noticed Pepe's trying to sort of say, it's Arsenal, they could get 100 points and stuff like that.
No, but you know what? I love it. Bring it on, man.
Yeah. Listen, it's
I love that.
But this is the pressure that you face. Yeah. But he's trying to.
I mean, what would we rather? What would we rather? To be spoken of in these terms, or to be talking about whether we can scrape into the top 4? This is what we want.
Of course. But I'm just saying, right? that it's. We've not been used to this. I mean, these pressure now that's being heaped upon us, right? Like, where Pepe's saying, basically, they could get 100 points. They're the favourites. We're chasing. It's going to be really tough. He's being very smart with it.
I think, you know what it is? I think that's kind of reverse compliment to us. The fact that he's earmarked us for mind games like this shows how far we've come this season.
he's not doing it as a compliment. He's doing it because he's trying to rattle us.
No, I said it's a reverse it's a reverse compliment insofar as the fact that he's gone out of his way to say that shows us that we are a force to be reckoned with and we need to be taken seriously.
Yeah, Red Square says Arsenal don't want to break the transfer record as this can be too much pressure on a player. But Mudryk looks like a generational talent. Let's get him. Chetiana says lack of transfer last January cost us the top 4. I'm worried that this may cost us again. KSE need to help, need to be held accountable. We cannot have back-to-back disappointment. Of course, there was a difference last January in that we went all in for Vlahovic, but he wanted to go to Juventus. And this is what I'm saying, right? And actually, if you actually look at that, at that time, the talk was Arsenal were willing to pay more money than Juventus, but he wanted to go to Juventus. He wasn't really interested in going to Arsenal, so he ended up going to Juventus. So it might turn out in our way this time round. Patas Locus says Yunus Musa was impressive in the midfield at the World Cup. 20 years old, Arsenal Academy too. He was impressive playing for the USA. I know the scout that spotted him. He's always bigging him up. Musa plays for Valencia, was in our academy, and we let him go. Very good in the midfield as a defensive midfielder. He could be a shout.
About the Americans had some decent players. I told you.
Benatia or Tonali. Tonali's already said. I think Arsenal are interested in him in the summer, and he says he doesn't want to leave AC Milan. So I don't think that one's going to happen. Jason with a super chat says, I feel the pressure from last year of trying to finish the top 4 might have been a learning experience for our young squad. And I definitely think that's true, including our manager. I think it's going to be, that's a learning experience for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. Yeah, he's learning on the job.
Yep.
100%.
Elijah says, everyone giving them props, but I don't think Newcastle came to park the bus. I reckon the first 20 minutes made them park the bus, a bit like Tyson said.
Well, if you look at Newcastle, they've got a very good defensive record. And so, like I said, I wasn't surprised in the slightest when they were proving difficult to break down, because the record will tell you that they are just that, very solid defensively. Where I differ with a few fans, and with respect to yourself, is that I am neither disappointed or surprised that they so-called parked the bus, because I knew this was going to be a difficult game, especially, like I said, their previous game, they dropped points at home to Leeds. There was no way let me finish. There was no way they were going to come to the Emirates and be expansive.
No, not expansive, but I must say, the only team I can remember being as negative as them in recent times is Burnley. I'm being honest. No, I mean, listen, they got their point. That's what they can. I have not seen a team as negative. If it wasn't Newcastle, and if it wasn't like the great football they've been playing this season, and they came and did it, I don't think they'd be getting the credit. They were ultra negative, right? In the wasting time, breaking up play right from the earlier game. Callum Wilson was basically a defensive midfielder. Well, weren't he? Newcastle, particularly in the second half, basically they didn't even come in our half. I mean, it was just like.
But shall I tell you something?
Honestly, listen. No, I'm not faulting them for doing what they did.
I think you are. I think you are.
I'm not faulting them for doing what they did.
I think you are.
But I'm saying that you asked me. I'm saying I've not seen a team as negative as that since like a Burnley came to town or something. If Burnley did that, I'm like, yeah, I know that's what Burnley.
Okay, well, let's say you're right about that. But what I would say to you is this: did you see the Newcastle fans at the end of that game, the way they celebrated that point?
Oh yeah.
Did you see Eddie Howe, the way he congratulated his backroom staff? No, but the point I'm trying to make is, this is what they came for. They came not to lose. So to them, it was the job done. I was at the.
So with this guy Yomi's making the point where he said Newcastle. He's saying it again. They came to play us. We opened them up in the first 20 minutes. Carved them up, which we were. We just didn't take some of the chances. And then after that, they just went negative to hold on for a point. But
it was down. It was down to us, Robbie, to open them up. And unfortunately, on the night, we couldn't do it.
And listen.
Okay, we weren't at our best, but you have to give credit to Newcastle. So, for example, what they did by, for example, double teaming Saka the way they did and taking care of Martinelli and effectively nullifying Odegaard in midfield, all those things didn't happen by themselves. Newcastle made that happen that way. So we do have to give them some credit for the defensive prowess that they displayed on that day.
If they go away and they do that in every game.
Wait a minute. You can't say every game. We have to say one game.
Second, right? If they go away and at all the top clubs, that's their model, they won't get their top 4.
No, but who's to say that will be their model? I'm talking about this specific game.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if that's going to be their model when they go away to, I'm not even telling you a top club because they went away to Tottenham and they beat Tottenham. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, if that's going to be their model, they might struggle to get the top 4 if that's going to be them. Listen, they got their point. Mm-hmm. But moving on, Randy B59, he says, just tuned in, Sofian Amrabat, hands down. Or if you've just tuned in, we've mentioned Amrabat quite a few times. Although we're fans, but I want to see more because we're basing it all off of what we saw in the World Cup. I'm not really seeing when he's played for Fiorentina, with all due respect.
Yeah, but if Arsenal sign him, you will see more.
No, but I'm saying I haven't seen what he's done week in, week out.
Yeah.
I'm basing it off of what I saw. What I saw in the World Cup, love it.
No, but with respect, Robbie, what you're saying there about Amrabat, could we not say that about Mudryk? We haven't seen him in
but I have seen Mudryk. I've seen him in the Champions League.
No, but you've not seen him in the Premier League, so you don't know
I've not seen
how
him in the
he'll
Premier
adapt.
League. Not seen him in the Premier League, but I've seen him in the Champions League up against Real Madrid and he's looked excellent. Okay. Cobby Sparks says Newcastle came to play, but they quickly realised in the first few minutes that they couldn't go toe-to-toe, so they just adjusted their tactics. Jason says, I think how Newcastle was set up was fun. They parked the bus better than the other opponents against us. Arteta can figure it out with Batman prep. Laugh out loud.
You know what? That was
the real deal, says Ains 109. Imagine what it'll be like in 1 or 2 years under Arteta. Worth the gamble. Pay the money.
Pay the money indeed.
Right.
Going back to that Newcastle game as well, I think it's not such a bad thing because, listen, Newcastle proved resolute and very hard to break down. They are not going to be the only team that come to the Emirates and try to do that. So hopefully we will learn from that and we will hopefully become more adept at breaking teams down next time a team comes to the Emirates and tries to play like.
You know the best thing that came out of that for me? Is the fact that the Arsenal now know they have to get either a Mudryk or a Felix, or they have to this January.
Yeah.
Because there will be other teams that are going to come and copy what Newcastle did, especially struggling teams.
Yeah.
So
not all of the teams are going to be as good as Newcastle are at doing it, but they're going to try it.
Yeah, and you've got some teams, even teams that are low down, that are, are very adept at doing that. So, so we know now, we know what we've got to do in this window. We've got to go out there and we've got to spend some money.
I mean, listen, we've had 2 draws this season. One was against Southampton, one was against Newcastle. When we played Southampton, we were off it. Some people might say we were off it against Newcastle. But the Southampton one, let's be honest, it was a game where that was definitely 2 points dropped. Yeah, in my view.
But only lost 1 game this season, so it's still looking good. Akin KUNL3 says that's not true, Robbie. He's been very, very good for Fiorentina. Amrabat will be great. Now, I've not seen Fiorentina, so that's what I'm saying. I have to be honest with you. I've not watched the Fiorentina game this season. So I have not seen Amrabat at Fiorentina. Remember, we bought another player from Fiorentina, which everybody said he was going to be brilliant. It didn't work out for us, in defensive midfielder as well. Lucas Torreira. No.
Oh, right.
Yeah, from Fiorentina. HJW says, watching Trippier in the ear and face of the ref the whole game made me ready to throw hands. Bring back... ignore that one. This guy's trying to be funny.
I think with Arsenal, we have to get used to all styles. So, like I said, hopefully we will learn from what happened against Newcastle and it will make us a better team going forward.
Mudryk isn't that expensive, says this guy called Name. People forget the agreed contract is rumoured at only 60 grand a week. The deal is much cheaper So total package isn't that much. He said, well, listen, mate, £80 million is a lot of money, a hell of a lot.
It is.
For a 22-year-old, as Laurie said, he's not proven.
Not proven.
You're buying
potential.
Potential, yeah.
However,
great potential. By the way, I've been corrected by Sayafik G. You are right. Torreira was a Sampdoria player. I'm sorry, but he did. Hold on, though. But he did go on loan to Fiorentina as well. So, yeah.
I think we can all agree that he came from an Italian club and it didn't work out. But what I was going to say about Amrabat is that you look at Amrabat play, and listen, I'm not saying it's a given that he's going to come to Arsenal and do really well. But if you look at the qualities that he plays with, they are qualities that we could use, and they are qualities that are transferable in the Premier League.
Well, I know one thing, yeah. We've got to get somebody in. I mean, as I said, I know all the talk has been about Mudryk. We've got to get somebody in to be there if Thomas Partey's out. Because if Partey's out for like 10 games, I'd be fearful.
Listen, I'm going to go further than that. I'm going to say to you point blank on this show that this transfer window coming up is dependent on whether we will mount a meaningful challenge for the title, because I think we can all agree that one of the chief talking points coming out of that game the other night was the lack of depth that we had on the bench. And if we don't strengthen in this January window, I think that will severely lessen our chance of winning the Premier League, which if we don't do so...
Bit like last year, January, when as a
so
guy
what
said
I'm
it
saying
earlier,
to
we
the
missed out on
board
the top
is,
four.
what I'm saying to Edu and the Cronkies, and not so much to Arteta, because I know he wants it to happen. If you're really serious about mounting a meaningful challenge for this Premier League, then you need to give Arteta whatever it takes to get those players.
Lee J says El Neni is a solid backup. He is, but come on.
He's a solid backup, but with respect to El Neni, it's a big drop-off to Partey. Big.
Tivas says, would you wait until the summer if it meant that we could get Declan Rice? We kind of discussed that earlier on. Football 14 says Amrabat or Rabiot, or get the Mudryk deal done. Rabiot's been suggested.
I do like Rabiot, very good player.
More of a box-to-box stuff.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Again, that's what I'm saying. Who is someone that's going to do what Partey does? They're not easy to come by, them sort of. No. Amrabat is, and Sangara, people have suggested, they're good. They're good. They're good suggestions.
I guess the other thing we should really factor into this equation is the point I raised earlier in the show, which is, okay, if you don't quite get the deep line number 6 that you're looking for, could you sign another player with the skills that will transfer to that role and make it fairly seamless? In other words, can you put another player in there that could do a similar job, even if number 6 is not his specialist position? And there are players out there that probably could do that. Maybe not as well as Partey, but, nearly as good.
Jason says, do you think if the league title race gets tight, we put out weaker teams in for the Europa League? Well, also, for me, we have to prioritise the league because we're in such a great position. And if it came down to that, yes. You know what I mean? It's more important to win the league than the Europa League.
Yeah, but similarly, Man City have that same issue because I would argue that the Champions League is Pep and Man City's holy grail. That is the one. I mean, he would never say so publicly, but I'm pretty sure if you put him in a room privately and said, listen, man, if you could have one or the other, which is it going to be, the Premier League or the Champions League? I'm pretty sure, 99.9% recurring, that Pep will opt for the Champions League.
What about this by Ram? This is a great suggestion. And then after that, I'm going to put another one to you as well, right? Ram says, what about playing Zinchenko as a CDM? Well, the way he, obviously he can play as a defender because he plays as a left back. He's brilliant on the ball. He's good at, he's press resistant. He's good at passing. I mean, I know James will love this because James is always saying he should play in midfield. But I think James has always been saying further forward in midfield. But What about Zinchenko as a defensive midfielder? And then I've got another one.
Yeah.
I've got another one for you as well. What about Ben White as a defensive midfielder? Apparently he's played that position before as well. What about him in there? Because he looks as well like a person who's got a good pass on him.
Well, you see,
Great
now
energy.
you're sort of coming around to my point of view about transferable skills. This
Yeah,
is what
but
I was saying.
I'm just saying, you know, what about if, you know, if say there was a Partey, I mean, it's never been, the manager's never tried that, but, you know.
But you know what it is? It may well get to the point where if he's not able to get these types of players in the transfer window, he might need to look at options like what you just spoke of. So you make a very valid point.
Media says Zinchenko plays there for the Ukraine. Although does he play DM? He plays a bit more further forward for
One
the
thing I would
Ukraine.
say about Zinchenko as well, and I'm going to express this openly, his level of technical ability is higher than what I thought it was.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So, yeah, you're right. He could probably do that role and play it well.
London Nomad says Seko Fofana absolutely destroyed the PSG midfield. He can be a solid backup. Again, he's more boxed up, but I do like that player. I'll tell you. I remember watching him last season, and I was like, hey, this guy. Apparently, he was originally at Man City, you know that?
Was he? Right.
Yeah, Seko Fofana's originally at Man City. He's a real powerhouse. But again, he's more box-to-box driving force player rather than a sitter. But he is a great player. Africa Football Fan TV says, congratulations on 1.5 million subscribers, Robbie. What does this talk do for Lokonga? Lokonga's got to step up. Lokonga's got to step up. Listen, Lokonga has been here, over a season now? He hasn't done it for me. I'm being honest, right? I like the kid and I want him to succeed. Number one, I'm not sure that that's his position. When he plays in that defensive midfield position, he's very sideways with everything he does. He's a little bit, sometimes, I don't know, he's lackadaisical's a bit of a put down, I think, but he can be a bit too casual in that position. I'm not convinced with him playing at number 6 position. Further forward in the number 8 position, I think he's better. But I've not seen enough from Lokonga. I'd be even of the thing to say, if you bought in a Tielemans, then you send him out on loan. Because I think he's a player that needs more game time. I'm going to be very interested to see how he gets on Monday night in the FA Cup, because I think he'll start the game. But I need to see more from Lokonga. I don't know about you.
No, I would agree with a lot of what you say. However, he is a young player. He came to Arsenal much touted. I remember no less than Vincent Kompany was bigging him up and saying that he's going to be a very, very good player in the future.
Said he's a new, was it the new Vieira?
He kind of likened him to that. I don't think he. Well, anyway, he came to the club much touted, and from what I've seen of him, he does look a good player. However, you're right. He has made a few errors. There's a criticism that he doesn't get the ball forward enough, which is incidentally what we were talking about with one of the great pluses to Partey's game. So yeah, listen, he's got lots to learn. However, I do think that he is a good player. There is potential there. You're right, he may have to go out on loan to fulfill that potential. But yeah, I think he's one for the future.
Yeah, Keenan says Norton Cuffy could be a monster at DM, ticks every box, but he's still a very young kid. You've got to give him time to develop. Is that the type of player you're going to want to throw into that sort of position when we're sort of drawing into the business end of the season? I think he's on loan anyway. And Sir Wilzu says, pay for Mudryk and Felix, grab Zaha, Tielemans in the summer for free. And we're coming towards the end of the show right now. Let me just do a couple more. Rock Hovart says no Croatians at Arsenal, so no titles. He's obviously Croatia. They got some great players, Croatia. They really do. I thought they were very impressive at the World Cup.
They were.
Oliyedi says there is a player we're all missing to mention, and that's Wilfred Ndidi. Could be a great backup. Well, we've mentioned Wilfred Ndidi earlier on in the show, and he's been disappointing for me.
No, I have to say, I have to say that he's not covered himself in glory. I know, to be fair to him, Leicester are not having their greatest season, not by a long way. There's been several players that have underperformed. Even Tielemans, up until recent weeks, There's been talk that he's not been at his best, although in recent weeks his form has improved. But yeah, indeed, not quite at the races for me this season.
Yeah. Elijah Reyes says with a super chat, only downside to Amrabat is that the African Cup. I think the African Cup of Nations, that's not until next year. And final one I give here to Akil, who says, I think Mudryk should come later. We should get an experienced winger like Trossard or Zaha, then come back after he does his time at the Shakhtar penitentiary. I think he's referring to the behind bars thing. Right. But no, we need Mudryk now, but we also need someone who can cover for Thomas Partey. And keep putting it in the comment section. I want to know who you guys think that person should be. Laurie, thank you very much.
I've enjoyed it, man. Thank you very much.
The show's just flown past today, and that's because of you guys. I love the way you're so interactive in the comments. Honestly, the amount of comments that come through are absolutely fantastic, and to make sure to fly like that. Brilliant. I love the fact that you guys are just involved in it. Don't forget, I'll be back in the morning with Transfer Daily, so make sure, or Mudryk Daily as I've been calling it recently, right? So don't forget to check that out. You can check out today's one as well, that's already out. And of course,
don't forget the Talk is Cheap show.
Talk is Cheap out tomorrow. Talk is Cheap out tomorrow, is that right?
Tomorrow, yes it is.
With you, with Laurie, of course.
And Curtis
Shaw. So make sure you check that out as well. And some great content coming over the weekend. We're going to be previewing the game against Oxford United on Monday in the FA Cup. And look out next week. We've got loads of great content coming up for that North London derby, which is going to be big. If you've got nothing doing tonight, get over onto DR Sports. I'm going to be on there today. There's a big watch-along going on with that game.
Big game.
Chelsea versus Manchester City. And I'll tell you what, I'll be supporting Chelsea tonight. One more super chat just before I go. There's nothing written on it, but it's by Clay G. Big up to you, Clay G. Thanks for watching the show, and we'll see you tomorrow.